Okay, good morning, everybody. How are you? We are in the critical thinking class. I had a few things to do to get ready for this class. And what did I get my book? And the most important thing is this book that I got a while ago. I don't even know. I wonder if this is even like a first edition. It doesn't say. I'm just looking at the thanks I see in here. We're going to get to this, but more revelations have come to me about this Allie Brosh that I know. So, and just to give you a little teaser, because I like to give you a little teaser, the reason why I'm looking at this book is because it says unfortunate situations, flawed coping mechanisms, mayhem, and other things that happen. And I left off with this, kind of as the hook, coming back to this. And I just want to keep saying again and again, these are flawed behaviors, but the coping is unbelievably great. Like the coping is really, really great coping, especially writing these things down like this. So one of the things I said, just to be clear about all of this too, if you're following along, one of the things that I said about Brian was that, so in the readings that we had on optimism that I had before, double-edged sword, optimism, a double-edged sword, I think that's what it was called. And about Brian and the slippery slope that Brian had, right? So the slippery slope for Brian was that he hadn't dealt with the reasons for his dysfunction, his self-esteem, his low self-esteem. He hadn't dealt with that. And then when he was writing about it, it was a rumination. This is not rumination. This is a slow walk out of a pile of ashes is what it is. It's a slow walk. But can I just jump to the chase for a little bit? What the author says is that I've got to find where the author says it. It's just some of the things. At first, when I was reading it, it makes me sad. Some things make me very sad, and because I know I can understand, as many of you have said in the blog that I've read, why what this person is going through, and so it does make me very sad. On the one hand, on the other hand. So that was the first emotion that I had, was that I was very sad. But then I really understood I didn't read the last two stories. I gotta take this. I have to take this in slow chunks, because now that I know the person, whoo, it's like a dose of reality for me, right? It's a dose of reality for me. And as this person says in this, is that you want to leap in there, right? And we're going to talk about this in a minute. I like I said, I think this is it. At first, I tried to explain that it's not really negativity or sadness anymore. It's more just this detached, meaningless fog where you can't feel anything about anything. Even the things you love, even fun things, and you're horribly bored and lonely. But since you've lost your ability to connect with any of the things that would normally make you feel less bored and lonely, you're stuck in the boring, lonely, meaningless void without anything to distract you from how boring, lonely, and meaningless it is. Almost has a Dr. Seuss kind of cadence. But people want to help, so they try harder to make you feel hopeful and positive about the situation. You explain it again, hoping they'll try a less hope-centric approach, but re-explaining your total inability to experience joy inevitably sounds kind of negative, like maybe you want to be depressed. So the positivity starts coming out in a spray, a giant, desperate happiness sprinkler pointed directly at your face. And it keeps going like that until you're having this weird argument where you're trying to convince the person that you are far too hopeless for hope so that they'll give up on the optimism crusade and let you go back to feeling bored and lonely by yourself. The pictures are amazing. I read about the dead fish. But there's a part in here that I haven't found yet. And the part in here was about how the person, Allie, I'm reading this, wondering what the heck. But there, I can't find it. I don't know why I can't find it. But there's a part in here where Allie says, I'm going to just keep going. I'm going to keep going into the darkness. And it doesn't matter to me. I'm just going to do it. And then truly how scary that can be. And so all of this, in my mind, is a timing thing, is what it is. Let's see here if they... The pictures, I don't want to necessarily show you all the pictures just because it's just, you know, it's going to take you some time to read the captions and things. I have got the link to the blog where you can enjoy most of what they're saying in the book for free because it's right there in the blog. And the person, Allie, is just an unbelievable writer that you can totally connect with. And as I said, I am going to be using this here, her book, to help you understand this concept. So let's go back now to what we're talking about, right? What we're talking about for this critical thinking classroom is we are talking about trying to figure out who we are, because that is this age group. And in this age group, it doesn't matter how old you are, but in this general age group, which is about high school kids, so teens area, right? And older teens, a little bit older teens area is what we're talking about. And so you have got same-sex peers that you have one kind of relationship with. And it doesn't matter whether or not, no matter what your sexual orientation is, this is the truth. You have same-sex peers that you identify with in certain ways, no matter. And you have opposite sex peers that you identify with in different ways, no matter, right? No matter what your sexual orientation is. And so you're trying to figure out, that's how you figure out who you are. We need, and since the beginning of time, we have needed something to compare as comparison. How do we know if we're smart unless, because don't all children before they attend school think that they're the greatest, or most children can think that they're the greatest, not necessarily Allie. I'm going to have acid in my stomach because of that. But they think that they're great. And actually, Allie does. I mean, Allie talks about how in many ways she was very arrogant and that she was very dissatisfied with the fact that society just couldn't catch up to her. And so we're learning about ourselves, and it seems, psychologically speaking, that the best way to learn about ourselves is through comparison. And we find out a lot of things. We find out about our inadequacies, right? But we also find out about our strengths. And then we have this tendency as our own personality to focus on something, right? Some of us focus on our goals and our strengths, right? Some of us focus on our mistakes, which also it can be motivating, right? But some of us focus only on the negative outcomes of the experiences. And you can get that from this, right? You can get that as a child, Allie did have a tendency to focus on, you can tell in the stories, the negative aspect of it. But when you read this, how could you possibly have anything but laughter about this? So, again, from our spiritual classroom, all things work for good for those who love God, because I believe in a higher power that manifests itself in this. And there are other things about this, like where'd you get this drawing? Because I recognize this drawing, but I don't know how you could have recognized this drawing in 2010. So it's just or 2013, or whenever this was, you were drawing that as a drawing. So I just find that there is just such a spiritual movement that I can see even here in this book. Again, you would say unfortunate, flawed coping mechanisms. No, they're not. I'm using these right now to teach in a way that I haven't been able to teach people about depression and loneliness and weirdness and abnormalness and all those kinds of things that make you feel depressed. And in this person's case, guilty and ashamed, right? And when we're depressed, it's always amounts to guilt and shame. It always does in Allie's case, right? In Allie's case. It is so enjoyable. And it is, as I've always said, as a psychologist, this is the only way that you can take what is going on now and yesterday and a year ago and in antiquity as in ancient times. The only way that we can handle it is through humor. So this is the best coping mechanism I have ever seen. I'm using it. I'm going to use it for you. I'm talking about it very broadly right now, in hopes that some of the things, even just what I read, connects with you, in hopes that you get that book, you get this book, you use this link. But I have never found a way to discuss this kind of, again, awkwardness, right? Feeling that you are abnormal. I've never been able to discuss it more adequately than using this book. But I still am a scientist, and this isn't science. Hyperbole and a Half by Allie Brosh. Even though Allie is a scientist, this isn't science. You can hear about her scientific reports in there, at least a little bit, a flavor of this. But this isn't science, so I try and give you some of the science behind what we're talking about. So let's go ahead. So again, remember what we're doing is we are giving you different ways to see very specifically relationships with your peers, relationships with people of the opposite sex, relationships for romantic relationships, relationships for feelings of brotherhood and sisterhood, and relationships between mother and child. All of these have very different dynamics, all really searching for the same kind of thing, right? That we feel good about ourselves, that we feel like we have self-worth. And when we don't, what we do is we end up going to the group. And then we get this group identity and this group mentality. And that's what we're talking about in our philosophical classroom if you want to continue on. So you can see here the spiritual connection, right? As in, all things work for good. All things work for good. I started to say there's a part in this book where Allie goes and says, I'm just going to go through it. I'm going to go through it myself. I'm going to go into that darkness. But it is very hard when you're not ready to go into the darkness and do that. So what do you do? Here it is. No, it's not. How is that I can't find that? Oh, here it is. It's the identity. Identity Part 2. My attempts at self-preservation backfired and turned into clues I could use to guide myself further towards the truth. And the voices, Allie just does such a great job about the voices inside her head, because that's where the whole story is. There's the experience that happens outside her head, and then there's the experience that happens inside her head. I was getting dangerously close to uncovering the inner workings of my self-worth generator, and that is not something I wanted to know about. Like most illusions, if you figure out how it works, you won't be able to believe it anymore. But Sherlock Holmes' psychology explorer refused to give up. That is just determination beyond belief. I understand I'm starting this class with just bits and pieces of something that you don't even know what I'm talking about, but I bet the parts that I'm reading here you're relating to. And if you could just then listen to how I'm putting it together, it's going to make sense. So Allie is searching for what's up with her. What's up with her weirdness, right? And there's the voice inside her head. Hey, I specifically stated that you aren't allowed to go here. There's a thing. You aren't supposed to see it. You can't go in there. What are you doing? This is what we're exploring. And this is what it feels like. That's what it feels like. For Allie and for everybody. Look, they're there. Where is it? I want to see it. I'm going to find it. And look at that mess. Look at that mess that's there. But Allie perseveres. I was so upset when I figured it out. What is this? It tricked me. It's been tricking me the whole time. Nobody likes being tricked, especially not for so long and about all the things that are important to them. I wanted it to be real. I didn't want the source of my problems to turn out to be, you're just sort of naturally shittier than what you wanted, and you had to trick yourself so you wouldn't find out and be disappointed. Oh, there is nobody. And there's the security guy. You tricked me. You tried to trick me. I tried to stop you. So you'd rather know the truth and be mad? No, I want the truth to be different. It isn't. You tried though. I did. I did try. And I really, really did. And I suppose that's something. I might not be able to be someone who never ever gets the urge to push people or throw sand at them. but I try to be that person. And then not throwing sand and not shoving people competition. I get the participation ribbon. And even though I know there aren't any special requirements for earning the participant ribbon, aside from the participation itself, I still feel sort of proud of it because it's hard not pushing people and not throwing sand at them. I just cannot believe the character of Allie. I cannot believe that Allie wrote those words. I'm going to read them again. And I really, really did. So this has everything to do with what we're talking about self-esteem and the participation ribbon and the fact that the ribbon wasn't earned. Right? Right? So here we have it. And I really, really, here. So you'd rather know the truth and be mad. No, I want the truth to be different. It isn't. You tried though. I did. I did try. I can't read that without crying. Because every one of us, we try. Oh my God. How many times I've said your wheels are spinning, right? It's not that you're not making an effort. Are you getting someplace? And I, with all kinds of desperation, want you to get someplace. So, I'm going to read it again. And I really, really did. And I suppose that's something. I might not be able to be someone who never, ever gets the urge to push or throw sand, to push people or throw sand at them. But I try to be that person. And the not throwing sand and not shoving people competition, I get the participant ribbon. And even though I know there aren't any special requirements for earning the participant ribbon aside from participation itself, I still feel sort of proud of it because it's hard not pushing people and not throwing sand at them. And it is hard. It is hard. Here's the participation ribbon. I will try to trick myself. I still try to trick myself though. I know I'm being tricked, but I let it happen because it feels nice. Good job. You found all the shitty parts. You don't have shitty parts anymore. I do though. I just know about them now. Shh. No, you don't. But I do know about them. And there are probably more I do. Shh. No, shh. Shh. How about that? How about that? How about that? Taking the courage to look in the dark at your shitty parts. How about that? And then coming, look at this. Look at those drawings. Look at that. So how do I know what Allie is saying really does work? All right, I'll tell you. Because I got the science behind it. That's why. So remember, that's what we're doing. And we're using these skills that we are honing in order to, yeah, I'm right, yeah, in order to be able to do this comparison and contrast with other people in the time it takes us to do that, right? And the time it takes us to do that. Allie was exploring these things about herself when she was, apparently from the day she was born. Not all of us have that kind of insight or capability, right? And not most of us wouldn't want it anyway. I don't know what's on this glass. All of a sudden I found icky sticky on it. Yikes. So not all of us want to do. Who in the world would do that? Exactly what Allie expressed here. and going to a place, I wanted to know if I had been lying to myself about anything else. And with only a minimal level of investigation, I was able to determine that I'd been lying to myself quite a lot. And then she goes. It says, you do nice things for selfish reasons. So she's looking at herself. It says here, you have screwed up priorities. So these are the voices that are inside Allie's head. This is where we left off on Thursday. What are the voices saying inside your head? These are extraordinary examples of voices inside your head. Look at this. This is the motivation, application, things I like that aren't true. Tracking apparatus, what I really am, selfish, greedy, self-important, lazy, nice but for shitty reasons. Oh my gosh. Who doesn't think every page that you're going to go on, you're going to be like, that every comment on the blog, that's me. That's me. Are you stalking me? That's me. How did you know? I can't believe it. I just did this yesterday. Every one of these ideas here. But how Allie takes you through that dark space in a book, in one book. In one book, like I said, that if you want to read a shorter chapter, you could read a shorter chapter just by looking at the colors there. Genius, genius, genius. Because I use the colors to pick shorter chapters to read, right? If you actually are genuinely a good person, perhaps you don't need lies and tricks to feel good about yourself. But every day against my will, I am bombarded with all these shitty, selfish thoughts. And I don't want to find out that the reason I have them is because that's what I'm really like. That would be disappointing. This system protects me from that, but I'm a little greedy about the good qualities I want to believe I have. And I'm not very sneaky. So at some point, I accidentally started to figure out what was going on. I just am enthralled. I am like speechless, but never speechless. I am in adoration. There is so much to admire about Allie, who says her coping mechanisms are flawed and have created mayhem. Oh my gosh, I have never seen better coping mechanisms. And by the way, you've got me to compete with. Yeah. That's what I am saying. I put my coffee in a coffee cup. It gets cold faster. But I love my coffee cups. So that was a side note. Here, self-talk. I'm so humble, I'm not even telling anyone how great I am. Smiley faces. I don't know how I do it. Should humble people feel this proud of how humble they are? Who doesn't go through this in their mind? Who doesn't go through it in their mind? Stop it. Stop thinking before you ruin this for yourself. You are the most humble person that ever lived. No one is more humble than you. Have I always been this full of shit? I mean, because what kind of humble person would say that? That's the exact opposite of humility. What insight, what introspection to have to go through at some of this is at very young ages, you can see. So the introspection that this child had about some things that really were clearly darkness. When you start figuring out how full of shit you are, it's like opening a tunnel to all the lies you've ever told yourself. The tunnel is really deep and scary, but you're suspicious about it and you want to see what's down there. I wanted to know if I had been lying to myself about anything else, and with only minimal level of investigation, I was able to determine that I'd been lying to myself quite quite a lot. So I was going to decide what to read out of this book, and I wasn't going to start with this. And then I found what I wanted to read here, and I read exactly. So that's where I started, was right there with this. It is. So here's the self-talk, which I have to see down here. You're only kind of smart. You have screwed up priorities. Hey, asshole, you have screwed up priorities. And they use the F word there. I didn't. It says, you'd be a huge dick if you didn't actively try not to be. You'd be a huge dick if you didn't actively try not to be. That's what that was saying. It's hard to read because it's black print on a dark cave. You do nice things for selfish reasons. You're helpful because you want to adore yourself, not because you actually want to help. None of us really want to help. Honestly, most of us are really going out of our way to help people, and we don't want to be aggravated by going out of our way. So, you know, and then the other thing about this is how aggravated Allie gets about things that she can't control. So go to the website, and she has a new, her new book is coming out in September of this year. And so she's got some new postings there that kind of get you ready for the book. And look at some of those new postings, because one of them that I looked at yesterday was really about, and I can't believe it. Here we go. Hyperbole and a half. There we go. And what was I just saying about the one that I was looking at yesterday? What was the point that I wanted to make? Oh, about how angry Allie gets at the little things. Now, let me tell you this. I want to tell you this about that. This is really, really important. So if you take a look at the website, and I'm gonna pull it up. Oh, geez, there was that story. That was not a good story to look at for me. Yikes. Okay, so a song is coming on the radio, La Bamba, and going through. This is how Allie is starting her day. Then somebody's beeping outside. Then there's the cat on her face. And then there's a paper cut. And still in the background is La Bamba going back in her head. And then there are these noises that Allie can't stand, especially in the morning time. The refrigerator noises. And then looking for her wallet, and can't find it underneath the pile of clothes. And then trying to open up a bag of chips. Laugh out loud, I'm going to spill all over the floor. And now the cat, I'm going to make everything feel like suffocating and burning. So take a look at this, and a red light, just a red light. And the red light is laughing at Allie. And here, I'm actually gonna do a couple pictures here, but I just want to zoom out and show you. Oh, come on. Just to show you the pictures here about everyday things that happen that everybody Alrighty. So here is two more pictures of how everybody's day goes bad, right? This happens to all of us you know, plenty of times. Let's see what's going on there with that picture. Right? A red light when we're trying to get to work. And then what? The smiley face on the red light. I hate you. Allie also has the wheel that's spinning on your computer after it. Look at what it says. Ha ha. No more power. Goodbye. So one thing after another, after another, after another that Allie is saying makes her want to explode. Well, I'm going to tell you two things about that. I'm going to tell you three things. This is all about control. Number one, this is all about control is what it is. And Allie clearly says it. Well, not in those clear words, but basically says, why is it that all of these things I want to control and I know that I can't, and I let them get me angry? So this is an issue of control, which is exactly what we're talking about. All right. I can't control all of a sudden. I could control the battery, but I can't control that red light. Right. And I certainly have not been able to control that, you know, wheel of death that keeps spinning that Allie also has in this same blog spot there. So if you want to look at more of those pictures that are of aggravating things one after another. So what were the two things I wanted to say about it after I said it's a control thing? The thing is this is hormonal in part. So the two things, I better say them fast. It happens to everybody. These happen to everybody. It's an issue of control, and our reaction is likely a hormonal reaction. And the very first thing that you want to check is you want to check to make sure you really are eating and getting the nutrients from the food that you're eating. Number one, you have to be getting vitamin D. We have had a week of gray weather. There's no way you're getting vitamin D here in Michigan in the last week. And we need 4,000 international units of vitamin D every single day, likely as a supplement in the wintertime. Every single day in the wintertime, 4,000 international units of vitamin D. Now, as a grown woman who has really been sort of inoculated in many ways by experiencing hormones and up and down and learning how to regulate your body and your emotions and your mind, I don't experience the ups and downs of hormones even when I don't eat like I should or have all the nutrients. That's a thing that comes with age and eating right and taking care of your body for all of that time, right? Trying really hard to take care of your body all of that time and being aware. It's not like I didn't eat junk. I still eat junk. I told you I drink pop. It's a new habit that I picked up. I hadn't had pop in years and years. Now all of a sudden I'm drinking it every single day, right? Okay, it is what it is. I don't put everything in my body that's bad, but I did look out for, I won't, you know, I'm not drinking anything that doesn't have real sugar in it because it just put a hole in my gut like that, like the minute I drank it. The minute I drank something with other than real sugar, it put a hole in my gut like that. And what I mean by that is whoosh, right? That's all I mean. So this is an issue of control, which we can take control, that everybody experiences. Again, it's the reason why a million people said, that's me. Have you been stalking me? I can't believe that happened to me yesterday, right? Everybody's saying those things. So it's normal. But the very first line of defense is nutrition. Allie experiences a lot of these things at younger ages. In particular, and also we develop our reaction to them. Allie at older ages is beginning to see the value in the experience despite her hate for the experience, right? Those are older ages. But at younger ages, it's the volatility of those emotions, that depression, the hate that she was feeling, and even traipsing over to her neighbor's house. Oh, dear Jesus, God in heaven, your poor mother. I'm going to say it again, your poor mother. Because, yeah, that's exactly what she thought. That's exactly what she would have thought. Exactly. And so some of those things in the scheme of things are scary. Like, yeah, that wasn't normal. That wasn't normal, right? I mean, and I have a short 2-minute video on what's normal. Who's afraid of abnormal? Allie sure wasn't. Well, she was. She was afraid of it sometimes, wasn't she? She was afraid of it being abnormal a lot of times. But in the end, look at what she produced. She produced a work of art. That it's a work of art. It absolutely is a work of art. And somebody used those words. Somebody used those words in the comments. It's a work of art because she put in, and the only way that we could deal with that kind of, weirdness of feeling like you are not normal is through humor. So, and in that way, in this way, right? In this way, she regained control. And you can hear it in every story. She regained control. What a phoenix coming through the ashes story this is. And no better example of how to feel weird and deal with it than this book. No better example on how to feel weird and deal with it than this book. So, but let me talk to you about why it works. Even though there's no better way than that book, let me talk to you about why it works, because that's what I do best. I don't do what Allie does best. I do what I do best. And that is kind of explaining these things to you. So, what are we looking for? We're looking to find ourselves in the midst of being so unbelievably screwed up. It would seem, it would appear, right? Feeling so unbelievably abnormal. That story of your neighbor Richard, I'll tell you someday what I thought, other than, like gripping of my heart with fear. Other than that, yeah. So, using these skills to find out who we are, right, is what we're doing here. All right, so let me explain to you, because where we left off was with self-talk. So where we're actually, let me do this, if you don't mind me going all the way back through these. So we talked about learned helplessness, right? We talked about learned helplessness when we were talking about Seligman and the dogs, right? So the dogs, whether or not they learned to escape. So I called it, so learned optimism versus learned helplessness. We had to understand learned helplessness before Seligman moved on to learned optimism. And then today, what our title was or is on coping and hyperbole, right? Hyperbole and a half. So I've been laying the foundation all morning so far, right? So the dogs, we learned about learned helplessness, right? In order to learn about learned optimism, that's really where we are. In order to learn about how we are to cope. And so which is what I've already done now, really talked about that hyperbole and a half by Allie Brosh. All right, so and this study by Harry Harlow, right, that we talked about on Wednesday and Thursday of last week, that study demonstrates at what ends up happening when we have no control, right? No stimulation, no control over our environment, then the extent to which we can become dysfunctional, right? So Allie was lucky to some degree. I mean, there's a story there, that her grandma was, had screwdrivers in the afternoon. So, okay, that's a little scary right there. Seriously. Oh my gosh. And yeah, so you become really aware of what people feel like they have control over, and at very early ages, not feeling that sense of control over an outcome. I don't know. I don't know. It, in part, the book at first broke my heart. It at first I had to put it down. It was too much reading. And then I realized who Allie was. So then I couldn't put it down, right? Relating these things. And then I had to put sort of the two together, like my experiences and what I was reading and knowing at the moment in time. And doing this slowly, just like Allie said in that last chapter that I read for you. Because when you find out truths that you've been hiding from yourself, right? The painful truths, because we all have truths that we hide from ourselves. It is a coping mechanism. It is. And the fact that I just cannot even just imagine the courage. And if I had a courage meter, where Allie would fall on that courage meter to be able to, like, literally walk through the darkness to find out how many lies she was telling herself. Nobody does that. Nobody does that. I mean, obviously some people do that, but really, I don't know anybody. To walk through the darkness to find out the truth. I've probably been doing that more recently, and I'm 57, and Allie clearly is not. So, because she's speaking to a generation that I wouldn't know how to speak to like she does. So clearly she's not from my generation. Yeah, I know how to speak a lot of different, languages, ways to speak to people, and I didn't know any of that, right? And then you look at yourself in some ways and you go, how couldn't you know? Same thing to Allie, right? How couldn't you know? You were hiding them from yourself. They were all part of your person to begin with. How couldn't you know? So what a courageous trip for Allie to take on her own. And the beautiful part about that is that I know now, is that taking along anybody else on that journey, like telling your mom or your dad exactly what was going on. So many times recently I've been thinking about that. Why don't people just say something? Why don't they just say something? I recognize people, but why wouldn't I know that I recognize them? Because I expect them to say, oh, hi, Annette. Remember me from the grocery store today, right? Remember me. I dyed my hair. I might look a little different. But if nobody says that to you, right? Nobody tells you what you need to know. You can't know. You can't know. Allie, if people didn't tell her, she couldn't know. But in the same token, if Allie did, right? So if Allie, for example, didn't tell people, well, any one of these stories, any one of these feelings that she had, right? Like as she's going through the dog obstacle course that she built, and her mother is timing it, and she says, I know that my mom thought it was weird, but she kept doing it like she was a trooper. Well, even just that, communicating those kinds of things, or these feelings of, that I didn't like hot sauce. I didn't really like it, right? And everybody's doing, like, they're making them play music that's from the Red Hot Chili Peppers. They're buying them outfits, pajamas that have chilies on them. How could somebody know unless you'd said something, right? People can't read your mind, no matter whether or not they're a psychologist or not. I mean, just go to a psychologist and you can see they clearly cannot read your mind, because most people lie to psychologists and they don't know the truth. And that's why they're there for decades, right? So even a psychologist can't read your mind. when you're so angry, when you're so depressed. But a real true believer in things happen for a reason and in their own time. You know, had Allie sprung that on her parents, holy smokes, I just see myself as, you know, and it's not that you shouldn't tell your parents stuff like that, especially, but your parents just can't believe you wouldn't have said something. So find it hard to believe things that might be true. But if you didn't say that, how would I know? How would I know if you didn't tell me that you were the person I met in the grocery store who's sitting next to me? How would I, why would I ever make that leap, right? Especially if you looked a little bit different. People don't make those leaps for if there's no reason to make those leaps. And this is the whole essence behind, you know, this idea of critical thinking and learning to read between the lines. Is that really what you want to do? Do you want to have to read between the lines, or do you have an expectation that people are trying to tell you the truth? And when we're in a relationship with somebody, that truth that comes out because of trust, right? Because of trust. And so if the truth isn't coming out, well, what I've learned from Allie's story is that, you know, I guess in your own time, because as a mom, had I known some of that stuff earlier on, if I were that mother, I would have gone into panic mode. I mean, even times as a mother, and this is for high school students. This is, as a mother, I felt at times feelings of real desperation. When I went into my son's class, my younger son's class, for the very first time, and I saw that he couldn't sit still, I went in desperate mode. I realized that he hasn't been able to sit still, and this is third grade now, that he hasn't been able to sit still for first, second, and now third grade. And what did he lose? Actually, it was second grade, because in second grade, the second grade teacher told me he didn't know how to read, and he should have known how to read, and he didn't know how to read. And so we took books and we taught him how to read, and we did extra tutoring and lessons with him to help him read. But it was hard for me. As much as you see, I'm a teacher right now, I wasn't that teacher then, and my expectation is my boys are really smart, and they are. So you just can't know things. And even when you do know them, your reaction to them might not, it could only be what you know and what you've learned. I mean, by the time of third grade, where my younger son wasn't learning like I thought that he should be learning, especially because his scholastic scores were off the charts. He was in the 90th percentile. So whenever he took the standardized test, he was in the 90th percentile. So why he wasn't learning what he was supposed to learn, that was very unclear to me, right? But then his scores were falling, and now I'm in desperate mode. And that's what happens. That's what happens is as a parent, I'll just tell you, as a parent, and other people feel this, I'm sure men feel this on their job, right? If all of a sudden things are behind and you just find out about it and you are behind the 8 ball, you get into desperate mode. In desperate mode, you start grabbing at straws. You'll say and you'll do anything. You'll like run the whole gamut, right? I'll sit down and I'll talk to them, and it'll be an hour lecture. It shouldn't be an hour lecture, but I had a lot to say. And I'll spank them, and I'll ground them, and I'll make them work hard, and I'll and I'll do, and it amounts to, it does really amount to love, right? And sometimes that is so hard to do and feel in different situations. And when was I unable to do and love? Was when I felt desperate about my kids not getting something, right? And I felt desperate when I felt like I was behind the 8 ball. If I found out a problem existed way after it started, then I was like, oh my gosh, right? That's the way that I reacted. So if I found out that one of these problems existed, like with the neighbor Richard that they talk about had existed, and I realized the full scale of that event, for example, I don't even know if I could function. Like, what would I do? I would have homeschooled. That's what I would have done. And I don't know, and I know actually, I'm quite certain that, especially with an introvert, that would not have been a good deal. That would not. I mean, as it was, you know, I could see that, my second boy was never bored. My older son was. They're both smart in their own ways, but the one never got tired of his imagination, while the other one did, needed more and something different. So anyway, all of these things, what I'm saying is they can come out in their own time, but I wish that I had seen Allie. Honestly, I wish I would have seen Allie pray. I feel like if Allie would have prayed, and I don't know that that's true. I mean, I know kids suffer, 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 and that probably sometimes ruins their faith, is if they suffer, 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 and nobody helps them with anything. And we are done. And I'm going to take and we didn't even get to our slides that I wanted to get to. So we got to Allie and a lot of the things I wanted to get to with Allie, and I'm so happy that I did that. But we have more to come. All right. So we will talk more in depth about what exactly you can do to take control of these things yourself. You can't learn them at 5. You can't learn them at 7. But you, as a parent, can help teach your child certain control. And it does seem that Allie did seem like she was just gaining control is what she wanted. Allie just wanted control, and she was getting it no matter she was getting it, right? So you go, Allie, for doing that. That is for sure. Thank you so much for joining me. I hope that this didn't seem like it was just sort of all up in the air. Get that book. This is Dr. Annette Feravich, and we are in the Bookless classroom, and I'm telling you, get that book by Allie Brosh, Hyperbole and a Half, and she has a new book coming out. I will be so anxious to see. Please don't turn me into a, spiraling down into a crying, drinking mess on book number 2, please, please. But I loved reading everything that you had to say. I have a little scratch in my throat. On your blog and everything. It took me a while. I read the book before, but now with new eyes, it says something entirely different to me, and that is exciting. Okay, all right. I'm out of here. Thank you. This is Dr. Annette Feravich. I'm the teacher, and this is the Bookless classroom. Thanks. I will see you tomorrow.